There's some important trends in ransomware in 2019.
Hey Mike, what story do you have for us today?
So I was taking a look at some of the data around ransomware infections recently. Ransomware continues to be a significant threat to enterprises and individuals. And I came across a report that looked at kind of the state of ransomware attacks in Q1 of 2019 to kind of get like a current pulse of what's going on. There was some things there that really weren't terribly surprising. Retail, healthcare, and industrial and manufacturing verticals continue to be targeted very, highly by ransomware.
That is a little worrisome. Whether or not people are getting some of these ransomwares are going to get into industrial controls.
But there were some other aspects of ransomware behavior that were a bit surprising and certainly correlate with some things that we're seeing within our own customer type of engagements. Ransomware attacks are becoming more targeted and more hands-on.
There's been a trend over the last 1 to 2 years of adversaries infiltrating a network through a breach, some kind of weakness somewhere, and then making their way into the corporation and installing ransomware on the most important assets.
Ransoms have also increased as a result of this. They're shifting toward targeting enterprises with deeper pockets so that they can pay. The ransom, on average, according to one study I saw, had increased about 89% over Q4 of last year, and is averaging about $13,000 right now. However, for enterprises who have more than 200 employees, the real risk there is from a particular strain of ransomware called Ryuk, which tends to be impacting them more than others. And the average ransom that Ryuk is looking at is over $280,000. So they're definitely looking for some large dollar payouts from these infections.
I did see in what I read that actually the overall number, they said, though, had declined. Didn't I read that? That the payouts had gone up, but the actual number of attacks had declined.
That's an interesting data point, and it's one that honestly you can find contested depending upon whose data set you look at, right? What most of them do agree on, though, regardless of whose data you're looking at, is that really the cost of downtime is really increasing. And because the ransomware is becoming more targeted and that the actors are really taking more of a hands-on approach to deploying the malware, that it's being much more effective at its job, and that's making the downtime drag on longer. And the cost of the downtime from, lost workstation hours, slack labor, lost opportunities and revenue generation, can be anywhere from 5 to 10 times the cost of the ransom itself. Clearly,
it's the amount of money, not just paid in ransomware, but lost in terms of work, is increasing.
Have there been any cases of ransomware where people paid and actually got their files back? Do you know? Do you happen to know?
Well, based on the data that I've seen, it's actually there's some good news there in that the answer is yes, that most of the organizations that paid to get the key back actually retrieved some portion of their files. And this is where, again, you have to really measure that business case very, very closely, because law enforcement officials and folks in the security space really recommend not paying the ransom. Do your homework in advance. Make sure you're protected from ransomware. That you have processes in place to prevent putting yourself in the position of having to pay the ransom. So make sure that you've got a layered approach to protecting yourself from ransomware and recovering from that, and that you have controls in place to make sure that those backups aren't getting encrypted.
We always say this defense in depth, so you need to have defenses to understand where things are going in your network so that something that you don't expect doesn't get access to everything else that's in your network. And again, the ability to restore in a disaster. Just if you had a tornado, you need to recover. If you have ransomware, you need to recover.